What's up, guys? Today on Sports Central, we're going to be going over a college football game preview, and this one's going to be over the 2019 Texas Bowl between 25 Oklahoma State and Texas A&M. Previous game for both these teams, Oklahoma State lost to Oklahoma, 7th ranked in the nation at that time, 16-34, and then Texas A&M absolutely got annihilated by the number 2 team, now the number 1 team in the nation, 7-50. They really didn't give much of an effort against LSU in that one. But yeah, some key stats from that one. Oklahoma State had Brown, their quarterback, 22 for 32, 270 yards and 1 interception. So really, I mean, these stats aren't all that impressive, of course, since both of these games were pretty much blowouts. But nonetheless, you have for Texas A&M, Spiller, he's their main running back, 11 attempts for 66 yards and 1 touchdown along with that. This game is going to be on Friday, December 27th, 6:45 p.m. Eastern Time in Houston, Texas. Spread currently says Texas A&M by 7, and the ESPN FPI is also saying Texas A&M 62%, with Vegas also on the same side, 31-27 is what they're expecting Texas A&M to win by. And really, I mean, Texas A&M being in a better conference than Oklahoma State is in, that is kind of expected. But really, I mean, this is going to be an interesting game in my opinion. I mean, these two teams are very evenly matched, and that's also a factor why bowl games are so hard to predict, is because most of the teams that are paired up together are like at the same exact skill. So yeah, most of these games are really tough for me to predict. We have stat comparison. We got a lot of same stats here as well. I mean, Oklahoma State 33.4 points per game. They got 27 even points allowed per game, 227 pass yards, 236 rush yards, along with 267 yards allowed passing wise, and then 151 yards allowed rushing wise. And really, I mean, this is a pretty good offense to be able to average 227 and 236 for yards a game. That's over 400 yards a game that they average. So yeah, definitely Oklahoma State, as you can tell, does have a great offense. I mean, most teams in the Big 12 do have great offenses, but that's primarily because they don't have very good defenses, which in this case, Oklahoma State's stats for defense or defensively are not very good. For Texas A&M, on the other hand, they average 30 even points per game, along with 22.7 points allowed per game. They get 247 pass yards, 151 rush yards. Then they average, they allow 211 pass yards per game and 129 rush yards. As for records, Oklahoma State is 8-4, Texas A&M is 7-5. So, I mean, yeah. Then again, Texas A&M had an absolutely brutal schedule here this season. This has been one of the tougher schedules that I've ever seen. The previous 2 games that they've had are both teams that were in the top 4. LSU, of course, was number 2. Now they're number 1 in the nation. And then they played Georgia as well. Now Georgia's a team playing Baylor in a pretty big bowl game, in a New Year's Six bowl game, and they lost to them 19-13. So they at least were pretty competitive with Georgia. They kept it within a touchdown. That was a pretty good performance there by Texas A&M. I know it looked like at one point Texas A&M could have upset Georgia in that game. That would have been huge, especially with it being on the road. Yeah, then again, I mean, Texas A&M really wasn't able to quite get it done. And I mean, Texas A&M has had a ton of opportunities here this year to really prove what they're worth. I mean, they've played a very, very difficult schedule. And I mean, in the end, I mean, they finished 7-5. So overall, that isn't all that bad. I mean, you got to consider Texas A&M has played Clemson. They played Clemson in game 2. I mean, they've just had a brutal schedule. As well as that, I mean, for Oklahoma State, they beat West Virginia 20-13. They beat Kansas 31-13, beat TCU 34-27, and they also beat Iowa State 34-27. Iowa State was the 23rd ranked team in the nation at that point. As for Texas A&M, they beat South Carolina 30-6, good win there, and they beat UTSA as expected 45-14, and they beat Mississippi State by 19, 49-30. So yeah, obviously, I mean, Texas A&M does have they've had a much tougher previous 5 games. Oklahoma State has played a lot of close games as well. I mean, 3 of those past games that they've played or that they've won in their previous 5 games are within a score. Like West Virginia, that's within 7, and TCU and Iowa State, are also within 7. So yeah, Oklahoma State plays the close games, that's for sure. Some key points in this one. This is an old Big 12 matchup renewed. If you remember, Texas A&M was in the Big 12. They were in the Big 12 at one point. I think it was I don't remember what year it was that Texas A&M switched to the SEC. But it was sometime in the 2010s, sometime in this decade that they did that. Yeah, so it's kind of exciting for both these teams, both these fan bases going head to head. once again in a bowl game. Pretty exciting. Oklahoma State, though, they do have more momentum in my opinion. I mean, Texas A&M has lost 2 in a row, and that includes a really tough loss against LSU. They lost against LSU big time. But yeah, Texas A&M, I do believe they have more experience though in this game. So it's either momentum or experience in this game, and it's really, really tough to predict. Once again, yes, Texas A&M they've had an absolutely brutal schedule, but how impactful is this game? Of course, for Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M, this is a huge game for that program, I think. I mean, if you can win this game, that'd be really good for the recruiting. It'd be really good to possibly get a good jump start into the offseason and hopefully get ready for a good 2020 season. That's for Texas A&M. I mean, I think this year, if Texas A&M was in a more easy conference, or if they're an easier conference, I could have totally seen Texas A&M getting 9 to 10 wins. I mean, this is a very talented team. And I mean, they really didn't lose a whole lot of impactful seniors after the 2018 season. So, I mean, I said going into like the schedule previews and the official previews of this offseason, I was like, Texas A&M is a great team, but their schedule is just brutal, and it definitely showed. But yeah, for Oklahoma State, this is also impactful, mainly because it's been a pretty decent year for them. It's been a little bit bumpy at times, but this would be a great way to cap off the year. But I do think the stakes are higher with Texas A&M in this one. But how would each team win? I would have to say if Texas A&M can get out first, if they can get off to a quick lead. Honestly, I expect this game to be pretty close in the end. It's going to be tough. I mean, it's going to be tough to get pretty big leads in this one, in my opinion. But here's my prediction nonetheless. Halftime score 21-17. Texas A&M is going to lead it by 4 at the half, and they're going to win by 4 as well. They'll win it 35-31. I think we see more of a moderate to high scoring game here in this one, and that's kind of crazy. I mean, when you got Big 12 team and an SEC team going head to head, it's basically like the conference of the great defenses and the conference of the great offenses going head to head. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, Texas A&M, I think in the end, I'm going to go with experience over momentum. I think that Texas A&M has more experience. They've played much tougher teams. And I think that this is going to be a major step down from, like, let's say LSU or Georgia. So I mean, they're going to come into this game thinking it's like LSU and Georgia because that's basically what they're used to. Especially, I mean, they played those teams in the last 2 weeks of the regular season. So yeah, with that being said, I think that Texas A&M does get the win here, 35-31. I expect it to be very, very close, though. I'd be stunned if this were a blowout. I think that Oklahoma State, though, I mean, if Oklahoma State won this, I would not be surprised at all. Yeah, that's about it for this prediction. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this one in the comments below. Let me know your guys' score predictions as well. Stay tuned for more bowl previews coming up over the next few days. We got about, I think, 5 or 6 days more of bowl previews. We're going to be getting out 4 to 5 a day, so stay tuned for those. Thank you guys all for watching once again. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central.